Heather Smith, and welcome to the Accounting Apps podcast, exploring the accounting and business apps community. Today, I have a really interesting episode for you. Zoho Corporation has been on my radar for quite some time now, but I've never quite understood what they do and where they fit in the market. Zoho Corporation is a billion-dollar business software company born out of India, which has recently set up headquarters in, of all places, Adelaide. I've been trying for the better part of 18 months to speak to someone at Zoho to help me understand what they do, and I'm really delighted to share that Val Steed, Director of Accountants at Zoho Corporation, joined me on the podcast, and he answered all of my questions. I'm left thinking that Zoho Corporation has a really interesting offering for the Australian market, and for a company formed in 1996, it's certainly one to watch. Once you've listened to the episode, reach out and let me know what you think of the episode and about any Zoho solutions that you use. So now, before I pass you over to the interview, I'd like to remind you to stay up to date with the curated content I'm sharing by signing up to the Accounting Apps newsletter available at accountingapps.io and joining the Accounting Apps Mastermind group and subscribing to this podcast. Thank you. Today, I am very excited to have Val Steed from Zoho Corporation joining us on the Accounting Apps podcast. Welcome, Val.
Thank you so much, Heather. This is great. I really appreciate the opportunity.
We're very much looking forward to hearing more about your journey and Zoho Corp's journey as well. So, Val, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got started in the accounting industry?
Right. Started headlong in the accounting industry as a CPA. So during college, though, one of the things that where it twisted my career a little bit was I fell in love with technology. At the time, what it was spreadsheets. You know, it was Lotus 123 and SuperCalc and actually DBase. I ended up buying a computer with a student loan. My wife has now maybe forgiven me all these years later. But it was about $7,000 back in the day to buy these computers. And so I started really getting into the accounting technology. In fact, while I was working in college and still studying in accounting, going on to get my master's degree in accounting, while I was in college, I was working at a resort, and the manager of the resort asked me to do a couple projects on my computer for him, which ended up pretty much accounting technology. I ended up writing in DBase a receivables package for them to try to help them collect a bunch of past receivables and things. And you start learning the power of this accounting technology, and you kind of fall in. So as I came out of college, passed the CPA exam, and went to work for Deloitte, that's where I started. With Deloitte, we were doing back in the day what is now called client advisory services, CAS. Because I could do it. You know, most of the other candidates and people my age didn't have the tech background, but they found that during tax season, I was busy helping them with taxes, work some audit work, but then all summer I was busy consulting with clients on their technology. And so that kind of became the direction of my career because of the real positive start with both accounting profession, CPA by background, but also heavy in technology.
I love that. I love how you discovered something and lent quite deeply into it. And it's always refreshing to hear someone talk about advisory services from a long time ago. Some people talk about it as if it erupted like 18 months ago. And you're like... Right.
Doesn't that crack you up? That's just amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like they just think it's like today's thing and it's been going on for many years. So
absolutely. I think the technology probably enables it more, but technology is such an important part. And I too started my career with Lotus 123.
Oh, there you go.
So what drew you to join Zoho Corp and lead their global accounting strategy and partnerships?
Wow, really good question, because sometimes I wake up in the morning and say, now, what did I do? I was at the time, actually, I'd left my firm. I'd gone from Deloitte to a little firm, and then I had started another business that actually was a continuing professional education, CPE business. That's how I ended up with the speaking stuff through Australia, New Zealand, and all that. and founded K2 Enterprises and had some partners there. We did two things there. We did a lot of CPE training, but the other big source of our revenue was consulting back to tech companies. And over the years, we have consulted with almost all the big tech companies on how to market to the accounting profession, how to approach accountants, how to design your message so that it comes across appropriately, because most of these tech companies think it's all about sales, and these CPAs will jump all over a chance to resell. Not really. Most of the time, you change a message to fit them as a benefit to their clients, and that really wins the day. That kind of thing. So we had a big consulting group at K2 Enterprises. I led that division, and one of our top clients was Zoho. They'd come along, and they were a client for about 5 years. When one of the executives there, he and I got talking one day, and he's like, all this advice you're giving us for the accounting profession is great. Why don't you just come to work with us full time? I mean, and I'm like, well, that's a little complicated because I was the founding partner of this other business. So I'm not sure we can figure that out. And he's like, we can figure it out. And by the way, as we figure this out, you got to make darn sure that we keep the relationship with K2 strong, even if we poach you, essentially, even if you come join us, you've got to keep that relationship strong because we rely on them. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So we figured out a way to do all this. And I literally just, pretty much sold my interest in K2 and joined Zoho full time about 5 years ago to lead this direction for Zoho, for what they're doing. Because there was a couple things that really grabbed me. Over the years, like I said, we have consulted with almost every big company, you name it, IBM, Microsoft, Great Plains, going back in the day. There are just so many that I've had opportunity to go to work for. And I never did, because I always had a hesitation in the back of my mind. Well, these guys are limited here. This company's limited here. Does that make sense? Well, Zoho, here were the things that really struck me about Zoho. First, their privacy. They are huge on privacy. I mean that sincerely. We can't see what customers are doing, even our network administrators. They can't go in and open your data for you. If you can't fix your passwords, you can't remember your access and get back in access, we can't recover that for you. So it's extremely secure and extremely private. In fact, I learned after joining Zoho, accountants and accountant focus, we're pretty conservative in our marketing efforts, right? But even still, I had what we call internally the privacy police shut down a couple of my programs because they felt like I was sharing information outside of what Zoho wants to do. So if you want to know about privacy policy internally at Zoho, think GDPR on steroids, because they're extremely cautious about that. In fact, if we run any program, I had a big program going with Avalara, big webcast, and they just shut that down because we had to host that on our own site. We couldn't let Avalara have control of it. And so we ended up modifying the whole thing and whatnot. So that was a big issue for me, privacy. The biggest thing that stood out in my mind was longevity, in the fact that they're in this for the long term. They're not trying to build something to sell off to venture capital or the stock market, or they've had their chance to do that. And as executives, top executives at Zoho, they decided, no, we're going to do the other game. We're going to do the whole long game and keep this company forever. Now, when I talked to one of the executives about that before I joined Zoho, I said, I'm a little nervous about leaving my prior company and joining you guys. I respect you guys a lot, love you, but, tell me about your stability, your vision, your direction. And he said, it's simple, Val. Zoho is my family. And I said, I've been in this game a lot of years. And if I had $1 for every time I heard that, and the next week saw people sell out, right? I mean, you see that a lot, right, Heather? So
Absolutely.
And so I was like really nervous. He said, no, Val, you don't understand. The vast majority of my family works for Zoho. We don't have the nepotism rules of the US and probably Australia as well.
Oh.
So if you've got a family member and they're really good, and by the way, usually good employees have good family members, we hire them, we look for them, We just can't have them in the same reporting chain. So there's a lot of folks that are married that work for Zoho, that are cousins that work for Zoho, that are related somewhat. Sometimes internally that creates some issues, but for the most part, it's been a good thing of finding good people. So those couple things really led me to believe in it. And the kicker, what really sold me on it, at K2 Enterprises, we started using the Zoho campaigns, our first product. That's a competitor with MailChimp. Okay. That's what Zoho campaigns is. And my partner loved it. The next product he wanted to go to, my partner, Randy and Tommy at the time, these two guys, they wanted to go to Zoho Expense. We were on SAP's Concur at the time, Concur Small Business Edition, whatever.
Yes.
And I was like, no, our people know this. We're good. I actually fought them on the change for a while. And finally, they're like, no, we're going to vote override you, Val. We're going to Zoho Expense. That was probably one of the more humbling experiences of my accounting tech career, to realize how wrong I was, because Zoho Expense was not only cheaper, significantly faster, and the interface was wonderful. So I was like, wow, I'm much more impressed with the Zoho product. And then it was when we finally got off Salesforce and moved to Zoho CRM as a company. And I went, wow, I consider myself like an 8-year survivor of Salesforce. And we went to Zoho CRM, and night and day difference, speed, ability to get to data, especially on a mobile, fantastic. So I was like, wow, I'm real impressed with this company. Then I come to find out Zoho has 55 plus apps. So we have this giant suite of apps, and that their approach is, instead of traditional, go out and buy the best of breed product and then build an integration over here to something here, which we all did for years. And everybody's still probably doing that don't know this future. The future, folks, is suites like we have, where they're already integrated and you're not fighting with that integration. And that's the clincher. Once I got that and they came to me with this offer, I was like, this makes sense. This is a vision. This is a long-term vision I can get behind and really help them at the tail of my career. Because I know this is probably my last stop, last place to kind of really push for a number of years here.
That is so interesting. And I do find it sort of sitting here where I am, difficult to find out all the information happening about Zoho, because it does seem to be so vast and almost overwhelming. And the piece around security is so important these days. Sort of, we are the custodians of the data and being so secure about that. I guess I should ask you, have you brought any family members in to work at Zoho?
Not quite yet. I had two that kind of looked at it and they talked to him a little bit, but they didn't quite put that together yet. So at least for my family, we'll see. And I have to brag a little bit on my one son. He works for Amazon Web Services, I believe.
Yes.
I get that crossed up with Azure at times, to be honest with you, with what he's doing. Anyway, he's done so well that when Zoho came to him with an offer, he was like, Dad, I'd be taking a big cut in pay to go to Zoho. And I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever. So he's done quite well with Amazon Web Services, with AWS. So,
oh, that's nice. And nice that he's followed in your footsteps, whether he's acknowledging that or not.
Yeah, he's big on tech. As a parent, sometimes you look at that and you say, who's paying you that kind of money? Like, they don't know you like I do, right? So
now, I'm wondering if you can give us a brief history of Zoho Corp.
Sure.
I know it started in 1996. I'm wondering if you can sort of flesh that out a little bit for us, just a brief history.
Absolutely. It really kind of fell into place, to be honest with you. There is a company, and just for grins and giggles while you're sitting at your computer, you should probably check this out. If you go to a site called Manage Engine, so you got two E's in the middle. I got to make sure I spell this right so I can guide you right. If you go to manageengine.com, okay, this is the parent company.
Oh,
this is what they started first. Now, people don't know Manage Engine, but here's what's fun. Here's what's really fun. Scroll down almost to the bottom and you're going to see a list of clients, and they have their little tagline right there. 9 out of every 10 Fortune 100 companies trust us to manage the backside of their IT. AT&T, Barclays, Sony, GE, you get the idea.
Yes.
So this was their original company, terribly successful, doing great, needed a CRM. They went shopping and decided we could build our own CRM instead. So they wrote their own CRM and it just blew up for them. Then they went to the next step and the next step and the next step. Accounting and finance started in 2012. And so we've been out 12, 13 years now with everything we're doing with accounting and finance, with the integrated finance suite. And it's just grown every year, just growing in leaps and bounds. So that's kind of what they did and how it got going. And the people that own Manage Engine also own Zoho. And it's not many families. They started it in India, but it is a global company. They've gone globally with this whole thing. I think right now we're in 125 countries,
Yes.
16,000 employees. Last year, we crossed $1 billion in sales, making us, I believe, the first bootstrapped unicorn in the history of technology. So they never took outside money from day one. It was all self-funded that they grew from. So credit to them for conservative management. That's still a little bit of our challenge. Have you ever heard of the N-1 theory?
Oh, no.
N-1 theory is a Microsoft theory where they look at the job that needs to be done and you say it takes 5 people. So Microsoft would always hire 4. If they think it took 5 people, they would hire 4. Zoho, we would look at that same 5 people need and hire like 2.
Oh.
So we're always a little bit stretched thin, which is fine, to be honest with you. It keeps us running a lot. But it means that it's conservative, strong management. And I'll tell you where that played out really well. And let me just say this. When the pandemic hit, I was with Zoho and I just hired some new people. Sridhar, he's our CEO, called a big meeting with all the managers. I was almost certain walking into that meeting that he was going to fire people like every other company in the globe did. And instead, he walked into the meeting and said, okay, let's address the big issue right up front. We're not going to lose anybody. We will hold on to everyone. So this was a chance for him to prove his mettle. Okay. We're going to hang on to everyone. We'll cut travel. We'll cut all kinds of other marketing costs. As executives, if we need to take a haircut, we'll do that. We'll cover back there, but we're not going to let go of anybody. That's Zoho culture.
Yeah.
They're not going to let. Now, people want to leave. That's one thing. Okay. If people do stuff where they need to be left, if you will, that's a different thing. But to just let people go because we're cutting back in general to try to increase value to the wrong, essentially, constituent. One of my executives over here in the U.S. told me something. I love this quote by Raju. He said, Val, most companies in the globe are focused on the constituents. He said they're focused on the shareholders or the venture capital. They're focused on the venture capital people, when instead they should be focused on 2 constituents that mean everything: customers and employees. He said, Zoho, we are focused on those 2. The ownership will get what they get. If we focus on customers and employees, we'll always make money. And you know what? They have made money from day one. In fact, one of the first dinners I ever had with Raju, but when I was still with K2, we were sitting there at dinner talking, and I had mentioned to him that we were using Salesforce internally at K2. And he said, Val, do me a favor. Go out and look up how much money Salesforce had made to date, like to right now. And I said, I'm sure they've made millions. You hear about the billion, zillion dollar valuations and all this. So I went out and looked, and at that time, they had made 0 money. They were still burning money when I looked. In fact, they've only started making money in the last few years, if you go look at it. In fact, I don't know how well they did last year. Point of that is Zoho from day one has been profitable and continues to be profitable even through really challenging issues like the pandemic, the global pullback. There's been a global pullback in SaaS spending. And we still had a great year last year, up significantly from prior years. So this is, in my opinion, for me and my family, and the fact that I'm still very close to my prior business, this was probably a really fabulous transition for my career.
Yeah, absolutely. It is quite fascinating and extraordinary that not necessarily to make profit from day one, but to be able to do that and consistently grow to the size that they are, I believe I think it's 28 years. That's
right.
Because everyone's always like, I want to grow, I want to be ahead of the market, so I need to get the funding in so no one overtakes me. And for some reason, they didn't need to do that.
Right. And sometimes certain companies sell out thinking that's a great future when they shouldn't do it. I'd like to point out one that as consultants to Great Plains, we told Doug Burgum, President CEO of Great Plains, don't sell. Don't sell to Microsoft. We know what Microsoft will do with your wonderful accounting software, your whole world. You know, when you talk to people about Great Plains back then, nobody did it better. You know, that's kind of the goal I want to get to here at Zoho with our accounting suite and how we treat partners and what we do, because Doug Burgum had a fantastic model running. And we told him, don't sell to Microsoft. They'll end up killing the product off. It's pretty much what they've done. It's still there in name, but it's not where it could have been and should have been had Microsoft had the right vision that I think they sold Doug Burgum on when they bought the company. So I've seen too many really, really good companies lost, you know, with these buyouts. And I still see that happening today, sadly.
Yeah. And I wonder, it seems to be me, and I may be incorrect, but it seems to be that the founders are actually still in place 28 years later. That's a lot of energy and sustenance to maintain that level of interest in a company and to maintain that momentum. And that's rarely seen in the industry. You know, they kind of go 10 years.
Agreed. They kind of go their route, get their big money and buy their boat and sail around the world, right? Too many times we've seen it.
Yeah.
And our top key executives are all still with us, which is really amazing, including our top like 2 or 3 top like executives that kind of really started the whole place. So no, it's been really quite, you know, coming from a U.S. background, U.S. business, all this, everything. For me, it's been eye-opening, to be honest with you, to see a little different way to manage a big company. And I'm learning, like every day, I'll learn something new about something, but it's been very impressive to see their true dedication to customers and employees. The one place, because we're a little understaffed at places and at times we're a little behind, I'd say we could do a better job for customers, is adding more feature to product. That's what we're really trying to step up this next year, especially in the finance suite. Over the next 2 or 3 months, you will see some big announcements in the finance area that we've been working on for a while. And that will make me much happier as we go forward, filling in some of the key holes for us.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds interesting. Very keen to find out about that. So I understand, am I correct that you're based in Utah?
I am based in Utah, yes.
I have heard that Utah has the best chocolate milk in the world. Is this true?
Yes, I would say probably we do. Yes. Hot cocoa as well. Stevens Gourmet Cocoa is a local one. So
this is on my bucket list.
We have our own little specialties. Have you ever heard of fry sauce?
No.
You know what French fries are, right?
Yes.
Of course. Okay. Over here, we take that to a little higher level and we mix it. Someday try this for me. Mix mayonnaise and ketchup. About a 60-40 mix, 60% mayonnaise, 40% ketchup. Stir it up till you get kind of a light pinkish kind of color. And we call that fry sauce. Now, it's famous in Utah, and there's a lot of people around here that have their own little recipes, whether they'll add pickle sauce or this or that or whatever. Anyway, it's good stuff. That's kind of what we're known for in this area.
Excellent. So, I'm keen to know, and this is something that's on my bucket list to visit Utah and try these things. But I'm keen to know from your perspective, what is it like working for an Indian-based company while you're sort of in the USA? How are you managing the sort of cultural nuances, the time zones? What's that like for you?
Oh, that's a very fair question. Absolutely. Time zone, no matter what you do, is always a bit of a challenge because you've got a delay. You need something fixed right now. So you do the best that you can, and then you need to hand it up, and you got to wait for sure till tomorrow and sometimes the next day, depending on how complex it is, and it hits India. They've got to look through it and come back to you. So time zone's a challenge where in a lot of cases here in the US, if it was a big US corporation, I could get somebody on the phone or walk in their office if I was in the same location and say, no, I need your attention on this. So that's been a challenge. We're working, as best we can as a global company around that, but it is a challenge. Cultural differences are not huge. I served an LDS mission in Japan when I was like 19. I lived there for 2 years, and that was eye-opening, coming from Utah kid. Thrown into an Asian culture for 2 years, language, all that stuff. So I'm used to different cultures, and I've traveled quite a places around the globe. I would say Indian culture is not that far off from U.S., Canada kind of culture we have here in some ways. In some ways, you have to approach things differently, and I've learned that. And that's all fine. It's so far, I would say, is there any big cultural barriers? No, not big ones. There's some different ones on how you communicate and how the response you get back is communicated to you. I'd say that is quite different in a way. And you kind of have to learn how to adapt to that. Once you get that down and you move forward, the rest of it's pretty good. And I'll tell you one thing too, as Zoho, as a company, we don't really pay top shelf dollar when we first hire people. But when we give annual raises and bonuses, if the company's done well, there's almost always a bonus after the fact. Honestly, when I first found out what they were paying out for bonuses and raises, I couldn't believe it. I went back to the HR guy here in the US and I said, Christian, you've got to be kidding me, right? He's like, no, this is what we're doing. I'd never heard of that level of a bonus before, to be honest with you. Yes. I've been in many companies where at the year, Christmas party or something, they'll hand out $200 to $500 or something. Other bigger companies, $2,000 or $3,000. If we have a good year at Zoho, your bonus, once they have a good year and come back at you, is a factor of your monthly take-home pay. And it's usually, if you start going 2, 3, okay, that's pretty big stuff. Okay. We've had it as high as that, almost 3 one time. So that blew me away. So they do really share with their employees. And also the annual raises. I'm like at a different ball game. When they hired me, they brought me in higher, blah, 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 this kind of stuff. But like my people that I bring up with my staff, my team, when I get to look at their annual raises and decide what they're getting, it's percentages that I don't think I've ever seen, especially in the accounting industry. It's significant percentages. So yeah, been very pleased that we're able to do that. So like I say, we don't hire really big off the start, but they love to bring people along, and they don't like to lose anybody. As I mentioned, they really have the theory down that it costs them a lot more to lose somebody, have to rehire, than it is just to work with people and try to work around and maybe find them a new place if they don't like where they're at. Yeah. They're very big on that. So interesting culture. That's kind of a whole different focus than a lot of the companies I work with here in the US.
It's so interesting talking to you and hearing this, and it is so different to the run of the mill of what we actually regularly hear. So very appreciative of you sharing that with us. In a recent webinar, the brilliant Cassandra Scott of Loris Bookkeeping explained how her practice leverages experts' AI-powered workflow automation to elevate their services. Cassandra shared how Expert identified duplicate payments worth $3,000 in a client's high-volume transactional data, something that would have been nearly impossible for a human to catch. Expert uses AI to analyse client data in an intelligent way, looking at over 80 different audit and risk detection points. Cassandra went on to share how she mapped out her first 10 workflows in just 30 minutes, improving consistency across her team. Expert empowers practices to standardise workflows and processes, and an update can be instantly deployed across all areas. Finally, Cassandra showed how data-driven visibility helps her optimise work and improve quoting. Using Expert's insightful practice management reporting and analytics, you no longer need to price using a crystal ball. Cassandra has been in practice 18 years and acknowledges that Expert was the missing piece in her tech stack, and now that she's rolled it out, she's well positioned to grow her business. Come for the data quality, stay for the workflows, reap the benefits of the practice insights, and let Expert empower business efficiencies. Visit xbert.io to start your free 14-day trial.
Now, have you had the opportunity to visit their headquarters in Chennai, India? What
Yes,
was that like?
I've been over there 3 times. It's when you first go over there, it's India. It's very busy. They put us in a nice Hyatt in Chennai, which I appreciate. That gives us a chance to grab whatever food we need. If if you're having trouble with the local food, which in India tends to be kind of spicy and hot, so you got to be careful what you eat there. But the first time, like we drive up to this office, you've probably seen on the internet the pictures of the kind of the inverted building. Yeah, we affectionately call that the bucket building, kind of the inverted bucket. But that is the small building, actually, on the campus. There are 3 or 4 other big buildings around it that are just huge now. They build out the campus. So when you first go up there, it's quite intimidating to see this giant campus because like what we've seen in the U.S., and some of the other offices around the country that I've seen, like the UK, US, Canada, they're pretty much smaller offices, sometimes leased space, this kind of thing. Well, these are all big Zoho built buildings on this giant campus, and it's very impressive. I've been over there now 3 times, and every time I see a new building that's gone up. So it's amazing.
Wow. In relation to the city, is it quite a big campus or is it sort of a typical type thing for that actual city?
I can't speak for the city on whether that's really a typical kind of thing for the city. All I know is that our campus there, let me see if I could guess acreage. It's probably on about 100 acres. And once you get in the bucket building, the main building, if you look out windows there and you don't look towards the highway, if you look towards all the buildings that you see in the near little ways, they're all Zoho. Either we have apartment buildings, we have Zoho apartment buildings, we have office buildings, and it's really quite amazing what they've done with that site. Now, the truth is what they're doing in India is they're growing a lot of offices that are not part of the main campus because they're kind of landlocked a little bit. They're kind of locked into what they've already occupied, as much as they can there. So they're going to a lot of more remote cities and setting up. For example, last time I was there, one of our finance executives, Siva, was telling us about an office that's about an hour away, kind of south and east, and they've got 400 people in there in that office. So they're starting to build a lot more remote offices, which is very interesting.
Very interesting. So I have a quote here from, apologies if I say his name incorrectly, Sridhar Vembu, the CEO of Zoho Corporation. We are a state-of-the-art tech company with a very old-fashioned approach to company building. So I think you've shared many of this, but what sets Zoho apart from other tech companies in the accounting space?
I think if we go back to that focus on the constituents, that's where he's mentioning we're kind of old-fashioned. We don't hire top tier. We don't get really crazy and aggressive. Another example, we don't go out and buy Super Bowl ads to promote Zoho and waste millions of dollars. Instead, we stay with guerrilla marketing where we buy and sponsor a lot of local events or close to the vest events that we have more control over, which makes, it's more of a conservative, old fashioned approach than throwing the flashy big dollars around like a lot of the .coms and the tech world did with a lot of the venture capital money. If you remember the whole .com mess with all that, because there was a lot of big money thrown around. Also, you'll never see us go out and I remember one conference I went to. I think it was a Microsoft conference, and it was their big conference down in Houston. And what they'd done is Microsoft had sponsored an F1 race car, and they had it there in the lobby of the hotel for the whole event. And it was really cool to see and neat to be part of and everything. But in the same time, how much money did they spend getting that F1 race car and driver down to Houston and sponsoring the whole F1 team? I don't know. I don't think you'll see Zoho sponsoring an F1 race car kind of thing.
No.
At the same time, very conservative management. I'll tell you that. We hire very conservatively. We interview a lot of people. We're pretty picky, even though we don't have huge starting salaries. And then I'd say also the place, so I got to hand it to Sridhar. Sridhar is very passionate about a few things. Family means a lot to Sridhar. So this last little while, he noticed that a lot of our employees were not really having a lot of kids or doing whatever. So he upped the paternity leave and the maternity leave. I think right now we're sitting at 15, 16 weeks or something like that.
Wow.
Oh, it's significant. It's 3 months, pretty much 12 to something. It's just significant for both paternity and maternity. And he's very committed to that. And then our benefits, honestly, I've never seen a company with such great benefits. Health insurance, vision insurance, hearing insurance, you name it, the health side of it. Then on the 401k matching side, they're very, very committed to helping their employees with everything they can pay for other than huge salaries, if that makes sense. So that's where they're kind of conservative, very conservative hiring, all that. So Sridhar really is the one that leads all that. Also, right after I joined them, I was quite impressed with his stance. It does create some problems for us, but he came out and he said, we are not sponsoring alcohol anymore. We've had too many issues. And he's a big advocate of protecting employees. And globally, one of the employee groups that he's really strong on wanting to protect is his women in hire. Because, globally, we've had some issues where some of these men, even at Zoho, have taken advantage of the situation. And he's like, he cut those people, he'll cut them loose in a heartbeat if he sees any of that. Part of that was he saw some abuses with alcohol to where he said, we're just going to stop doing that. And so I don't drink because I'm LDS. I'm Mormon, essentially. And so I was like, okay, that's a pretty good approach. Now, the only place that makes it complicated is if we're out at a dinner with a bunch of folks and we decide to pick up the tab. We're like, you don't want to be nice and pick up the dinner for everyone. Well, if they've ordered alcohol, I got to go get it doubly checked and doubly approved. But usually at these events, you won't see Zoho people drinking alcohol just with that stance. He's just trying to kind of protect stuff. So we won't usually sponsor big alcoholic events. We will do certain things that will have some alcohol involved where we're involved, like with influencers or analysts or, different things like that. But for the most part, it's a pretty interesting policy. Another policy, I'd say they're pretty conservative, old fashioned. When we travel, even as executives, we travel and coach. We don't buy business class, first class stuff.
All the way over to India.
Yep. And if you want to upgrade from that, you can, which I've done a little bit of. One time it was kind of expensive, but I have to say Emirates is a really nice airline when you upgrade. So, but we pay for that personally, which is fair game.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Look, I applaud the leadership on the issues around alcohol. As someone who goes to a lot of conferences, I know that I have seen abuse.
I've seen violence, and while they are small, isolated incidences,
Sure.
they are massively anxiety driven. And in terms of every time you go along, you're like, oh, do we have to be cautious? Do we have to look out for one another? And so I do applaud that sort of big step. And it's interesting because I've never heard that talked about. But
it's very interesting how he approached it too. I will say this: most cultures around the globe are pretty much male-dominated cultures. Agree with that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. India's kind of that way a little bit. And so at Zoho, and this is a global thing we're really big on, we try to make sure that if there's any place where a woman feels uncomfortable, pressured, harassed, whatever, they have an easy button. Any employee globally can send a direct message to Sridhar.
Wow.
There's no secretary in the way. There's no blocking. So if you send a message direct to Sridhar, you got to make sure you meant to send it, because he's going to take it seriously. Mm-hmm. So what they did, and I'm really proud of what they did in India, I think it was his sister, who's a doctor, kind of led the board, and they have a whole complaint board that's set up in India because we have so many employees, where if somebody, anybody, male or female or anybody, feels abused, neglected, inappropriately treated at Zoho, they can complain to Sridhar, get a chance to air out their grievances with like this complaint board, which is headed by his sister, which for a lot of female people makes them very comfortable going in there talking about stuff. That's been a really good thing for us to get involved in. And I just really applaud his efforts. He's very sincere about that. And very sincere about us as a company, making sure that we're accepting, even though we're old-fashioned management, we're accepting of anybody and anybody's lifestyles. I will tell you that many of people I work with in Austin, that's our big office over here, is Austin, kind of from California, Austin folks. They live a different lifestyle than me, and we all get along fabulously, and we love each other and care for each other. And Sridhar would not stand for anything else. So even though they're old-fashioned, they're conservative, they're very open to making sure it's an even playing field, it's a fair playing field, and everybody gets treated appropriately.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Would you say inclusive?
Yeah, I would say inclusive. That word's kind of been a little bit abused, a little bit sometimes,
and perhaps in America,
perhaps, but that's a very appropriate word for what's going on, because as long as you're the right candidate for the job, you get the job as a whole. If you're the winner, the right candidate, we don't care what you look like, what your lifestyle is. We don't care. We want you if you are the best candidate.
Yes.
So
excellent. I love hearing that, and this is something that is really good for our industry to know about. My theme this year is storytelling, and a solution that can help you tell the story of a business so that the business owners understand it and are positioned to make an informed decision is Fathom. Leading advisors engage their clients with meaningful conversations using Fathom. Fathom simplifies complex financial data to help clients understand the insights that matter. Beautiful, dynamic visuals let you instantly interact with financial results. Drill down into key metrics, explore the impact of business decisions, and create actionable plans to improve future performance. Fathom is great for presentations and meeting with clients. Invite your own team members and your clients into Fathom. Fathom beautifully integrates reporting, analysis, consolidations, and three-way cash flow forecasting. It's always live with your cloud accounting data. And the new features keep coming. Recent releases include divisional budgeting, custom terminology, 5-year forecasts, and a Google Sheet integration. Try Fathom free with their 14-day trial, plus a free one-on-one session with their globally award-winning customer team. Find out if Fathom is a beautiful fit for you. So, with that, what should accountants and bookkeepers in the Oceanic region, so Australia, New Zealand, sort of beyond, know about Zoho's offerings? What should we be looking at? You've mentioned Zoho Expenses, Zoho CRM. What should we be looking at, grasping, trying out?
Really, because I'm mostly in the finance group, I would say look at our finance. Let's start at the core of it. Look at Zoho Books as an alternative because we compete head to head with QuickBooks. We compete head to head with Xero. I know y'all are big fans of Xero, and Xero was one of my clients years ago at K2. We consulted with them very closely. So I understand the product and what they do. Understand that as you look at our finance suite, which is kind of anchored by books and has surrounding fill-in products like payment, sales order, invoicing, you've got inventory, expense, checklist, just all these other things that feed in, including like a global marketplace, internet-based marketplace that feeds into that whole thing. Look at that as an alternative. And the reason why it's such a strong alternative, I would say the core reason is because it's not just accounting. Head to head, we have pretty much everything Xero has, everything QuickBooks has, probably even a stronger inventory than either of those two, and getting stronger with the big announcement later this fall. So we have that. But while all of a sudden, what makes a lot of sense is you're not having to go out and build a connection to Expensify. You're not having to go out and build a connection to SAP Concur. We are already integrated. And with the flip of a switch, once you want to flow that data, it flows, and it flows very well.
And I think I've heard this described as you have a unified platform, meaning that you have one system that can do lots of different jobs. So once you're connected in there, you have the Zoho books, but then you can attach the ability to send emails, track money, CRM, talk to customers, etc., rather than an ecosystem, which is what the other solutions have, which they're building APIs out. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, unified system. We actually often will use the phrase that we're the operating system for business. Now, every time I hear that, I think operating system being DOS, Windows, whatever. What they're saying is essentially once you get a hardware running, for a lot of businesses, and I mean that sincerely, a lot of businesses, we can take care of all the rest of their software needs, all the way from Office. If you got people that have had it with Microsoft Office, we have a complete solution set for you. Email, spreadsheet, word process, presentation tools. We've got all that. Okay. We've got CRM, of course. We've talked a lot about contact management, CRM. What they don't realize, a lot of them, is we even have real stars in our lineup, like Zoho Desk, which is a service-based deal where people can come in and submit tickets to get help with stuff. Mm-hmm. And we've even had a number of universities in the United States literally just go in and buy Zoho Desk standalone, which you can buy any of our products standalone or in suites or the whole thing if you go out for like Zoho One. But a lot of these universities have bought Desk standalone because they're trying to service all these students in their university. And they found that Desk is a star at helping people manage tickets. Well, there's a ton of firms out there, accounts and firms that do this CAS stuff where they need a better ticketing system. Hey, we've got one to consider, Zoho Desk. If you're doing a lot of this CAS stuff, how are you tracking the work to make sure people are getting stuff followed up on? How are you tracking initial contact? All that stuff. There's another one. So you talk about Desk, you talk about CRM, you talk about expense. And sooner or later, like I say, they'll often try one at a time.
Yes.
And it's kind of like our gateway drug. They get on one and they're really happy. So they try another one and another one and another one. And that's how we win the bigger deals. Is they tried a few and they just keep going.
Yes. And I think, as you mentioned before, there's 55 web apps and there's 75 mobile apps within the suite. So it is overwhelming to actually even know where to start. And especially if you sort of don't have people around you to tap on the shoulder to get that support. So with the products here that are sort of servicing the Australian globally, but sitting in the Australian and New Zealand market, are they being adapted to Australian nuances like Australian tax tax regime, submission, payroll, SDP, any things like that, which may not be words that you're familiar with, but are they being adapted that way?
Yes, absolutely. The first thing we're going to be looking at, is the tax. And I believe we've got the sales tax, if you will, the VAT, GST, all that.
Yes.
GST. I think we've got that down
Yes.
in Australia. Fine. The payroll area, we're working on that. I don't know that we actually have Australia, New Zealand payroll or that area solved yet. But,
it's so
GST,
complicated.
I know that's the thing about it. We've got so many places we got to catch up on payroll. UK, United Kingdom, also is not very complex. We still don't have UK payroll too. We need that one too. But yeah, they're working on that, and I expect that's a group that has really lit up in the last year or two in their enhancements. So I expect in the next little while we'll probably see something for Australia in payroll. So I know they're working on that. So, but as far as the other taxation and local issues, I think we've got that all solved with the finance side, as far as I know. So
awesome. So talk to me about Zoholics, which is the Zoho conference.
Right. Annually, each year, we pick certain areas of the globe, and it's usually kind of by country that they'll hold the Zoholics. So Australia has their own Zoholics conference. We've been going on now, I think about 3 or 4 years doing Australia Zoholics. And I'm trying to remember what time of year they do that. I think it's in like September coming up.
Okay.
So there is a big annual conference, and I think this one's in Sydney. I think it's at the Convention Center, Sydney, right there in the harbor. And I believe
sounds like you need an excuse for a trip back to Sydney.
Well, that's what I say. And I actually asked one of my managers. I said, "Hey, I have a very good friend down there called Clayton Oates. It's one of my good friends. I need to go visit Clayton and meet more people in Australia, and I actually said that to him, and he said, well, not right now, Val. So I would love to be there, and sooner or later, I'm sure I will. But for now, I won't be to this next Zoholics, which I'm just kind of quickly looking it up here, trying to find it.
11th and 12th
Sydney.
of November, 2024 in Sydney. Yes, g'day, Sydney.
There we go.
And
and then we do Auckland right before it, and then we do Sydney. You got that right.
Yes.
So they'll also do some different product only focused things, and also some other trade shows they'll go to. I think Accountex is in Australia as well, right? Don't they come to Australia?
No, we had an Accountex. But we have Accounting and Business Expo, which you do come to. So Zoho has a stand at Accounting and Business Expo in Australia.
Excellent.
Yeah, Accountex had a bit of a mare. Yeah, so you're.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
It wasn't my area. So Zoholics is in November, but I presume that they're all over the world, so people can actually attend different ones. And it looks like it's a 2-day conference, and
it's a 2-day event. And for our partners, there's usually an event the day before the 2-day start that's kind of partner focused. We call it Inspire. I'm pretty sure they're doing Inspire in Australia this year. So for those people that are Zoho partners, or maybe want to be, maybe they should look into the Inspire thing, see if they want to come by and sign up. For accountants, I would say that the message that I would say to accountants is, yes, you have the opportunity to either become kind of a Zoho influencer, where you can just not have to worry about it later and get paid as you just refer sales, or you could be a full partner. Now, the reason why I really like the full partner side is a lot of accountants don't want to take that commission. They want to pass it to their clients.
yes,
If you're a full partner, you can do that. You have the ability to discount the software from what we pay you and pass that along to your clients. That's a nice thing, because that's most of the time what accountants are trying to do is help their clients, take care of their clients. So I'd say that's something of interest. So, and for anybody that wants to travel around the globe to see one of our events, if you just go to zoho.com/events, you can see all the ones upcoming. That's where I was going to peek and check quick.
Oh, okay.
And you can see all the places we have online or stuff coming up. Like, it looks like we're going to an online retailer July 24th, 25th in Sydney. There's another one, Project Management Technology Showcase, end of July.
Yes. Yes, I can
Yeah,
see.
we're doing a number of these. Yeah, Melbourne, we got some stuff going on in August. So they're active. The Australian office is quite active. They've got a number of things going on here.
Yes, yeah, no, I can see there. I'll put those links in the show notes for people to
Excellent.
refer to, and lots of opportunities there. Now, I'm looking towards the future and future product development. How is Zoho incorporating AI and into its products? Is that something? Is that a route that you're going down? I presume it would be.
Well, absolutely. We actually have been doing this for years. AI is not new. We have a product called Zoho Zia in our products built in that is kind of a built-in AI for natural language queries and also for many other things when you're trying to search and look up stuff or to give you guidance within the product. Zia, we've had that in the product for, at least 6 or 7 years, and I might be misquoting that because it's been in there before I joined Zoho, and I've been here 5 years, so it's been there for a long time. What they're doing right now is they're considering what do we add to Zia based on all the new Chat GPT, all this, essentially developmental AI where you can have AI figure out questions for AI, essentially, and take itself kind of down the road a lot further than we'd ever seen before. We're very carefully integrating the next levels of AI into what we already have. Because one thing we're extremely concerned about is either where AI has like a misstep and makes up data, makes up stuff, which it'll do that at times, where it doesn't have a real answer. It'll just kind of hyperbole and figure stuff out. Or where it breaches security protocol. And we're so big on security.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
As we add a lot of the new AI that's coming down the road, that's what's going to it's going to have to fit the bill for security and no essentially fabrication or hallucinations, I believe is the absolutely correct word. AI hallucinations, right? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That's all sounds very, very sensible. So how can our listeners, we've given them a few areas, but how can our listeners who are listening in find out more about Zoho and its products?
Probably the best focus for folks, because like most of your listeners are going to be finance related.
Yes.
If they go to zoho.com/CPA, that'll focus them. And I had to pick one acronym. Okay. In fact, I can't believe I actually got away with any acronyms with Zoho because we don't have many different websites. But if you go to zoho.com/CPA, that'll take you to kind of the finance related area that I'm involved with. And you can come in there and check our messages out, and it'll make a little more sense to you coming from an accounting finance background, focusing down the 55 plus apps to the areas that really make accounting finance sense. And then also giving you the opportunity to reach to our team, my team, and we can help you globally get the right people. Where if you want a demo or you want to consider becoming a partner, you want more information, you want to hook up with a local partner in Australia, all of that. So there's a partner program sign up link there. There's other links you can click on to get help there. That's the finance focused area that they should start with. Now, once they kind of understand that, if they want to jump over and through our team, by the way, we don't shy away from helping anybody with CRM or with Desk or with, any campaigns, any of these other wonderful Zoho products. So if they contact us and they say, Val, I'm really interested in CRM, we will make sure they get passed off to the right CRM group. But we kind of are a lightning rod, to be honest with you, with our team for a lot of folks around the globe, just because we're a little bit of a specialty.
Thank you for sharing that. So, thank you so much for joining me on the Accounting Apps podcast today. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners before I let you go?
One thing, and I really hate to ever mention this, but it's really probably a strong message. Our pricing, we don't lose to anybody. If you go in and start digging in detail, I think you're going to be stunned, because as a lot of companies are seriously evaluating their SaaS spend, we end up winning those wars like crazy because our pricing is significantly lower than most all our competitors. I hate to ever really mention that because it sounds like a car salesman, right? This car is going to save your life and also make chocolate milk for you, right? That kind of thing. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we consider ourselves the value leader in SaaS applications, and we pretty much win that day in, day out.
Well, thank you so much, Val, for joining us on the Accounting Apps podcast today. It has been such an informative talk, and I'm sure everyone listening in has learnt so much about Zoho, and you've really taken us on a journey today. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you for the opportunity. This is very important for us. So thank you.
No problem. I'm very pleased to be able to do it.
Keep up to date with the modern accounting technology landscape by subscribing to the Accounting Apps podcast, the Accounting Apps newsletter at accountingapps.io, and join the conversations happening in the Accounting Apps Mastermind community. I'm your host, Heather Smith, and I'm pretty easy to find on all social media channels. I look forward to connecting with you.